look
We're
great.
live.
Build some community.
Let's see. Are we live?
So it's streaming now.
Meeting streaming now. Let's see if I can see it. Hi, everybody.
Woot.
I'm trying to I hope I can see it on so that I can share it on my Facebook. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a. Oh, here we go. I found it.
There we go. I'm going to share it to my page. Yeah. There we go. We are live.
Everybody.
Yay! We're on my page too.
I'm trying to type sideways. All right. Welcome, everyone. It is a lovely Sunday here in the Los Angeles. We're having another panel discussion courtesy of Miss Betsy Friedman. So thanks for having us, Betsy. So before we get started, I figured we'd just go around, quickly introduce ourselves so that everyone knows who we are, and then we'll jump right in.
Yes.
All right. So, Christin, let's start with you.
Hey, so I am Christin, Jezak. It's my last name. Figured it'd be kind to share that because we don't always share our last names. You know, it's a little comfortable here. I try to be funny. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I'm stuck here in Burbank now, and here we are. And I do like shows. I do shows with a comedy partner, and yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Taylor, how about you?
My name is Taylor Hungerford. I am the front man for the band Tar and Flowers, but as far as community building is concerned, I have put on a few country nights at some bars and venues here in town, and I currently curate and run with Christy Huff the Winding Stream Americana Festival.
That's awesome. Right on. Betsy?
Yes. And Taylor has lots of groupies and fans. I've seen them at his shows.
I feel like did you ever do Viva Cantina? I'm quickly aside.
Or in Calabasas?
No, in Burbank.
In Burbank. Right? I'm thinking of the Sagebrush. No.
Yes, that's a Sagebrush.
And there was that. There's Joe's Bar and Grill in Burbank. They sometimes have a little country thing on it.
Yeah. I saw one country show at Joe's Bar.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little spot.
I Joe's. I love Joe's Bar. Anyway,
yeah,
awesome.
We're already community building because we found lots of things that we all have in common, even today, that we didn't know that we had in common before, which is really exciting.
So right down the street from where Kristin's from, so that's
so cool.
We're both New England.
It's wicked funny. It's so wicked funny that we didn't know.
That's right, from New England. Come
you
on.
know what I mean? So basically, for those of you guys just joining, we're going to be talking about community building. So boom, there it is. And so anyway, Betsy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So hi, I'm Betsy Freeman. Thank you for being part and watching. We'd love to hear your questions and comments, or rather read them. If you would like to post a comment, I will be paying attention to what is posted. And thanks for your likes and loves and shares. Community building is, well, I'm a networker by nature, and actually networking is my #1 talent. I don't make money from it, but it's a gift that I have. I know Leah and I have a similar Myers-Briggs. We're very we both are like, oh, I have a friend that does this. I have a friend that does this. But anyway, what do? I do a lot of online event planning these days. And I try to help these folks get gigs whenever I can. We can't do much in the way of live gigs right now. So we're doing online gigs.
Right.
And I'm also a musician and a writer. So that's me.
Well, right on. So I'll jump in. I'm Leah Finkelstein. I am a composer. I play live music when there's not a pandemic. I have a background in comedy. I was in a comedy group for years, and where we did song parodies. I'm currently scoring a series, and I'm a music supervisor and provide live cues for another show that airs weekly. And to Betsy's point, I'm kind of a schmoozer. So, which leads into what we're talking about networking. We're talking about, how do we, create and build this networking community in the midst of a global pandemic. So we've had to get a little creative. in figuring out how to navigate that in this interesting new time that we're all experiencing. So what we're going to do is we've got a few questions, and again, to Betsy's point, how can they submit? If for those of you watching,
just post a comment on the live, especially the one in the main page. If they post questions on your individual profiles, I'm not sure if you all will be able to monitor that, but I'll monitor the one in the Betsy Freeman booking page, which you should like and follow, because we have a new question a new panel every week.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So we're gonna jump in. We've got a few questions, and we're gonna have at it. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the first question we have on deck is, what do you immerse yourself in during times of great duress and hardship? I don't know what duress and hardship you could possibly be referring to. Christin, let's start with you.
Well, actually, I pray a lot. Like, I pray a lot. It's the truth. I really, when anything happens, it's like my first line of defense. Praying includes dancing and singing because that makes me happy. And I think it's important to dance and sing, and sometimes that's what I do. I've shared that before on the lives, and the fact of just causing a ruckus in the camp is what I like to call it when things get bad. Because you have to, sometimes you got to cultivate your own joy. Sometimes you have to cultivate your own joy, and you got to create that atmosphere. So I think, it's hard unless, like I said, unless it's like clinical and you're clinically depressed, but otherwise, I think it's best. I think it's good for myself and for my health sometimes to just let go. There's a lot of situations that you can't do much with, so to just be in a place of surrender, and sometimes you just gotta dance and you gotta sing. And it doesn't matter, and nobody needs to watch it, nobody needs to know but you and God, or whatever. Or if you want people to know, you can let people know. I mean, do it live, who knows? TikTok
dances. But the good thing is that we're all sort of isolating, so when we dance, chances are no one's looking. That's awesome. Taylor, what about you?
Oh, I don't know. I like that you mentioned praying, because sometimes reading scripture is nice for me, but also I like just immersing myself in different activities. Like, I don't know, I like reading just heavy books. I've been reading, we spoke briefly on the last panel. I've been reading a lot of existential philosophy. I mean, the two big ones, Jean Paul Sartre and Camus. But I don't know, just also music as well, just because, I don't know, I've been playing guitar for so many years. It's just kind of become an extension of my feelings. So I feel that if I'm feeling really terrible, I can sort of release it into the world some. But yeah, that would be my answer.
Yeah, that all makes sense. How about you, Betsy?
For me, number one is listening to music rather than playing. The headphones, like, honestly, even in even going to the grocery store, sometimes if I'm feeling stressed out, I will have my headphones on, because there's just days when I'm like I need the comfort, I need the surround sound comfort of something predictable and familiar that I already know what's going to happen, because even the grocery store can be weird.
Oh yeah.
Especially now. I try not to do that too often, because I'm not a little teenager, but sometimes in times of stress, like, the teenager comes out, and like I just withdraw into the headphones. And then I think TV, my TV and movie taste, like, vary widely. And it's not even just like, oh, when I'm sad I like this kind of movie or whatever. It's just like I go through weird different phases. I'll go through all different kinds of movies and or TV. There was a while during the pandemic when I was binge watching Chopped. For some reason, food competition was all I wanted to watch. And then now it does not sound good anymore. Now I'm done with that phase. But I would say those things. And then I would say sleep and, like, anything being warm on the couch, and like there gets to a point where I've cocooned too much, but those are my general coping mechanisms. I love books. I really love books, but they're in extreme duress. I can't concentrate on books.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, it's an interesting one because this whole year has sort of been that, right? So, you know, what am I immerse myself in trying to figure out how I'm going to survive this, right? So what I work with my writing partner, Heather Stewart, and we work on creating music, writing music, creating comedy, writing comedy, whatever it is that we're doing, we're creating. And that's what it's sort of, I do that anyway, but in times of duress, I will throw myself into that. You know, of course, we all have our binge watching. At least you're doing cooking show binge watching. I've been like watching Forensic Files, and it's kind of a downer. But
I have done that too. I have done the Forensic Files.
Oh, good. I get so anyway. So that, and then
it's a great show.
It's a great show. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was working out a lot, like every day, and that's the way I get out of my head and kind of chill a little bit. So it's sort of akin to your dancing. You know. So I was doing daily burn. They have this like 365. I don't know if you've ever done it, but they have a daily. They rotate 6, 7, 8 trainers, and the workout of the day is based on the day before that, and the day before that, and so on and so forth. So it is like a whole program. So it's about 40 minutes of like HIIT training or kickboxing or whatever it is, and it's really hardcore. And I keep screwing up my back.
Oh no.
I'm like, so great. I feel like I'm in such great shape, which is great because it's offsetting the amount of wine that I'm drinking. Maybe that's the other thing I'm immersing myself in. And then, so I'm trying to figure out a way to just make sure that back pain aside, that I'm making time to keep myself in good physical shape. So that helps. And lastly, I would say humor, comedy, laughing, calling my friends and laughing. Just, you have to laugh sometimes, and you have to laugh really, really hard. I'm so thankful that my writing partner and I, when we're working together, we're just laughing all the time. And it just makes the whole creative process that much more enjoyable, because he doesn't like to have a belly laugh at least 4 or 5 times a day. So, so that's, but everyone's going to find their own thing. And sometimes it changes, because we changed. So, I love all the answers. Okay, so we're going to jump into the next question, everybody. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. How do you build a network of amazing people who can help you further your career without it being fake or forced? Betsy, let's start with you this time.
Oh, great. This is a great one. I like to go with the advice that I learned from Mark Sackett, who is an extraordinary networker, and he does networking events all over the country and Canada. That you don't come looking to get things when you network. You come to give. You come to share of your existing network. And if you think you have nothing to give, you're wrong. So you come to give your time, your treasure, your connections to other people, and find out how you can help them. And you have to, I shouldn't say you have to do this, but we've all lived in Los Angeles. So everybody wants something, right, in LA. There's no question about that. But in order to get there, it's a long and winding road. So if you want to advance your career, why do you look about how you can advance the career of other people? And if you want some volunteers for your next project, why don't you go volunteer for some projects? And if you want some, so I would say, first of all, realize that no matter how far you get in your career and how successful you are, that in itself is not the key to your happiness in life. It just is not. Achievements are wonderful things, and I love achieving things, and I love when we can pull off a musical or a big show or a big collaborative project, because you cannot make a movie on your own. Nobody can. Nope. At least not a very good one.
Right.
So, but at the same time, how do you build it? Be yourself, be genuine, and don't screw people over. Don't say one thing and then do another. Don't make it obvious that you're just using somebody for what they can give you this time. I don't mean hide it. I mean, just don't be that kind of a person.
Yeah.
Be the kind of person that you would want to work with in the future, and realize that all of your relationships, you know, they won't all last forever, but treat them as if they could and should. That's my.
Be a nice person.
Wow.
Helps.
It helps, right? Christin, what do you think?
That was great.
Well, some of my thoughts as I'm listening to this is, I feel like in some ways, and maybe, you know, maybe I haven't advanced enough in my career because of this, but I feel like it's not worth it. Like, if you're not really gonna be friends with someone or really mean it, I mean, it's a lot of work for you too, to try to make that work, you know. And what's the point? Why? I mean, it's much better for things to be organic and to allow things to happen in their own time, because there are even cases, like, sometimes you don't realize. I'm trying to think if I have an example in my own life, but I know that I've heard of other people, especially in Hollywood, where it was like, I met this person like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and then all of a sudden they came out of nowhere and said, I saw, actually, no, I can say this. I have met people, and then later down the road they're like, hey, I love your comedy. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, I watch your sketches on Facebook and I see what you're doing. And like, sometimes you don't even realize, and sometimes that can come with a payoff. I mean, when it's the right opportunity and they're looking for you, and I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. You have to say those things. You say, I know it's going to happen, but you can't expect, I mean, it's the same thing with dating. You can't, like, I mean, I've had periods of my life where it's like every man I meet, I was like, oh, is he the one? It's in, like, there's this alternative motive behind every single man that I meet. He could be the one, so I don't know. And then like halfway through the conversation, you're like, absolutely not. What the heck was I thinking? But like the truth of the matter is, that's not an authentic relationship either. Because at the end of the day, you're hoping that they're gonna do what you need, rather than just saying, hey, this is a great friend, and maybe they're supposed to be in my life, no matter what they're supposed to be. And I have industry friends that are on certain levels, and they are just that. They're friends. I don't expect anything from them. I don't expect anything to even possibly come from them, but I'm just grateful that they're in my life, and as a friend, because otherwise, like I said, it's just not worth it. I mean, what are you living? I mean, that's the bottom line, you know?
Absolutely. I think that's all great. Taylor, what do you think?
You know, I guess it depends on you know, just how you're like approaching relationships that you make in Los Angeles. Because the interesting thing about the city is, like, there's just so many people doing so much cool stuff, like, all the time. Like, you just meet someone and it's just like, you know, they have like a cool web series or something. Like, you know, it's a really, like, you know, ambitious and amazing city in that way. But like, you know, for example, I met like this one guy, and like one of the first things that, you know, we talked about was he heard that I was an editor, because you know, someone mentioned it, because, you know, he shoots, and, you know, I ended up cutting something for him that he shot at a later time. And, you know, the whole approach I had to it was like, you know, it was just, you know, wanting to collaborate and, you know, put something together that's cool. And, you know, I try to put that vibe out, I think, so much as I can with everyone I meet. Like, you know, I've done like a few co-writes with different artists. The relationships that I've built with, like, you know, some promoters as well as bands has allowed me to, you know, put, like, you know, my whole deal, like, you know, here, let me hold this up. So this is like my favorite venue. This
I played the Cowboys
Palace. Yes, in Chatsworth. This is where I'm from.
Boy.
Like, I grew up down the street from
Amazing.
the spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Leah and I worked in Chatsworth. That's how we met each other.
That's how we met each other.
You're kidding me.
Yep.
Come on.
That's where I rescued my dogs too.
Wait, where did you work? Where in Chatsworth did you work?
I worked in Chatsworth too.
That's
Stop it!
We've all been worked in Chatsworth.
That's amazing.
Wait, but no, please, guy. I mean, I know that I'm trying to answer the question about community, but like, what did you guys
work?
We
Oh
work-
no, this is how,
doing it
this
right
is
now.
networking, this is connecting, right? So we worked in an IT company, which is hilarious for me because I am not an IT person.
Also
Uh,
not.
Right. So my
Wow.
role there was as client relations executive. I have a background in social work, right? So I got basically roped into a situation where when clients were particularly pissed at us, I would go to the office of said client and strategize what we needed to do to maintain their business and to make it all better. So I had to hear them out, and sometimes they were furious. And I did everything that I could do to make sure that we did right by them and kept their business as much as I could.
And I will say 9 times out of 10, there was like a 10-minute conversation about wine at the end of those phone calls because I would overhear them. And if you're an expert on wine, that seems to like really help with the client.
That does, yeah, you know, I tell you, well, it's funny. There was a woman that was the first woman that I met, and she was about ready to bail. And I was like, what? She's like, I just feel like no one is paying attention to our little company, and like, we need your help. And I was like, I'll tell you what, I will personally call you every Friday, check in, see how it's going. She's like, great. So I did for like a year and a half, and we became friends. I
Wow.
still call her almost every Friday. I haven't worked there since
Wow.
Bless you.
2017. You know, I mean, you know, we became friends. So it's like, it's my Friday call. So
That's awesome.
it's great, you know, so I've now been to her house for things. Anyway, so it's but
You illustrated deep integrity on behalf of a company that no longer exists.
Right.
However,
you know, but to your point on keeping things authentic and not fake and to network, I'll say 2 things that made me, what your answers made me think of is Jenna Fisher's book. You know, Pam from The Office, she wrote this book about acting, which is great. And one of the things she did was talked about how she would sit at home and watch every movie that has ever won an Oscar since they've started giving Oscars, and she knows every actor, director, she just is a wealth of entertainment knowledge. She's like, which is great at parties because I can like rattle this off. I know it. She's like, but how's that helping me? How's that helping me? She said, what I realized is I needed to become a joiner. I needed to go to a community theater down the street and be like, hey, I'll help build a set, or hey, what project do you need help with? And then you build your group because you find your people when you join the people that are doing the things that you share a passion in. And I think that if you approach it in an authentic way, and this is something that keeps circling back around in every panel discussion that I've had, is authenticity. If you approach it in that way, then they're going to know it's authentic. There was you know, we all have stories like this. There was someone who was like, you'll be great for this project I'm working on. I'm like, oh wow, that'd be great, you know, be a part of this series and this thing. And I spent time with them talking about this project that was getting funding, this whole thing. And I was like, he's kind of I'm trying to censor myself. He's kind of you know, he's not a good dude.
D-bag?
Just say, what's that?
A D-bag?
He's a D-bag. Thank you, Taylor, for the win.
dirt bag.
You know, so you know, and then I'm like, I'm not going to be authentic with this person. And you know what? I'd rather have my path be predicated upon real, authentic people that share in the same values as I do, and not going to treat other people badly. Because so I think as a result, I'm so thankful, you know, hearing these horrible Hollywood stories of the directors and how people can be so rough on composers and whatever. My first full feature that I scored with Heather last year, that could not have been nicer. The show that I work on, every single cast member and crew member, they're such lovely people. We had a holiday Zoom last week, and it was like a total love fest. So I think that when you do sort of move forward with that in mind, you might be surprised to find out how lovely a group of people you can amass. So anyway,
That's
my
good.
2 cents. Yeah, it's important to be, you know, there's just so much going on right now. It's really important to be kind. It makes a huge difference. I mean, you know, even if it's one quick story. this was right before the pandemic. I'm at the checkout line at Ralph's, and this older couple, probably in their early 70s, but they were like super cool musician, like early 70s couple. Like she had like funky hair, and he was just kind of rad. And he said something to me, and I made a joke back, and it was a long line, and we start going, and we like completely bonded from the end of the line through the checkout line, ended up hugging. Turns out he's one of the guys in the Wrecking Crew who has played on everything. You know the song "Let's Get It On," right? Wow, 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 wow. That was him. That was his riff. Wow. I was just like, what is happening? And then she is the head of music advertising for Variety. And I was like, oh, and we just completely, and now I didn't care. But when because she gave the information, we're like, well, we're going to hang out. We have to go out and have drinks because that has to happen. And then when I went back and looked them up, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And we stayed in touch, and they invited us to see a panel discussion with the people who were up for an Oscar for 2020 Oscars for the best song of 2020. It was Diane Warren, it was Bernie Taupin, it was the people from Frozen, the whole thing. And that's checkout line at Ralph's. And it was real, and they're lovely people, and anyway, that's my networking story.
Yeah, and I think that there's everybody has a different level of like introversion, extroversion. And I used to be like, I was the kind of kid that would like run up and hug strangers in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Literally. But after years of living in LA, like my ability to be like super nice to people I didn't know, like it started to dissolve, like because of various things, and I've had to like work on myself consciously to get back to the place where I can just like be openly nice to anybody, beyond just like transactional stuff, because that's what overwhelm, I guess, can do to you over time.
Absolutely.
So it says a lot about you, how healthy you've managed to stay over the years.
I'll tell you what, I will say LA is a lot, as much as I love New England, Christin, because I do, Boston is not the friendliest city on the planet. I would say that LA is, I've had way easier time having a random conversation with someone in a store in Los Angeles than in Boston. And I think one of the reasons why is in Los Angeles, people are like, I don't know who you are. You might be some big like producer. I don't know. So I think so that's where it's fake. But I also enjoy pleasantness. People holding the door open for you and saying, good morning. It's just nice. It's just nice to have pleasantness throughout your day. And if you make a conscious effort to spread that as well, maybe our whole society would just feel a little less crappy, So it's myself. We're going to jump to the next question, shall we? Let's see what the next one is. Ooh, all right, here we go. Here's the next one. Ready? It says, how has community building affected your events and online activity? Taylor, let's start with you this time.
Well, I guess I can kind of tell the second half of, sort of my genesis of going just from artist to promoter in that sense. I, would keep in touch with artists that I played with or that I saw. And speaking to your point about being genuine or having like a singular passion, for me and a lot of these people, it was a love of country music, which is still kind of like a niche thing here in LA. So when you find someone who's into it, it's just like, let's talk and be friends. And so I've managed to meet like just some very amazingly talented people, like just people, it's just like I'm fans of their music, and um through that, like I've been able to ask some very talented people to play like events that I've thrown on. Like probably I'd say like the most high profile guy I got, he's this artist here in Los Angeles. His name is Sam Morrow. He signed to 40 Below Records. He's been written up in Rolling Stone a few times. He just released his new album. He's pretty incredible. Another gal I know, Shayna Adler, who's actually friends with that fellow. she just released her album, and she, but like at the core of it all though is just like, a love for the music that these people play and the art that they create, and putting something together that people feel is genuine and from a good place. So I would say that my relationships with all those people have very strongly informed what I do, and has allowed me to blossom as a promoter, but I guess also a fan of live music.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Betsy, what do you think?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I sure can.
Thank you.
How has community building affected your events and online activity?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, since the pandemic, like I used to be the kind of person that was always going from one event to another.
Yeah.
I was like at book club one night, and then the next night I was at a birthday party, and then the next night I was at my friend's show, And in the past couple of years, I slowed down. Like I wasn't able, I'm just getting older, and I can't, realistically be out as many nights during the week and still stay sane as I used to. But now, all those years of, spending time with people make it easier to, bring people into relationships, because I have friendships that I built over those many years of, showing up and being shown up for. So, I just know who I can trust. Church has always been like a really strong source of community for me over the years. Artistically, Epiphany Space has been really wonderful for me to, and actually they even have online co-working and online goal setting, so we've been able to, online, we sort of promote and post about our online events. There's little private groups and private Zoom calls and little,
Right.
I've got book clubs and check-ins with people, and those communities, little communities, rose out of those bigger communities, over the years. And I think that we all have limited time that we can or want to spend either on the phone or on Zoom every day. But in order to get the kind of social time that keeps us sane and healthy, we do need some of that every day, mostly right now.
Sure.
So, so I guess I wanted to pull this together with the final sentence, but I'm not really sure what that final sentence is. Something about, there's a real joy in having that in-person interaction and those old memories to draw on to then create something that we can try to simulate some kind of coziness and online love experience. It still sort of feels like a facsimile sometimes, but it's the closest that we can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Christin, that's.
So by events, do we mean like your own personal events that you're setting up? Like you're
I
talking about like events, like
you know
events.
what, the canvas is yours. You could. It could mean live events. It could mean just how community building affects any kind of live show you've done.
Yeah. Well, I think community building is extremely important. I think it's interesting because in terms of like online things that I've been doing, a lot of like I don't know, just in terms of, let's talk about my own stuff. I'm like, because all I can think of right now is really like church worship services, which is so strange in some ways because you don't really interact with anyone. You're just streaming and tuning in. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but you're kind of losing the community element because of that, so that's not really a community building event. It's a good event. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying in terms of like what I'm participating in. And then even like the other day, like Final Draft, this was yesterday, they had this great panel and they streamed it on Zoom. But again, it was like a live conference and people kind of chit-chatted in the chat area, but like you couldn't ask questions of the panelists. I'm pretty sure they pre-recorded it and just like streamed it, which was also kind of interesting. So I think with that said, Actually, I think there's much more to be done. I think there's much more to be done. I think, Betsy had an event. She had a retreat with her clients back in, what was that, July?
Yes, July 25th.
Yeah, it was
Burned
July.
in my brain.
And it was so funny because on the one hand, Betsy said how important it was that we could see everyone on the screen. Originally, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do comedy and they're going to be looking at like 15 faces while I'm doing it. It's going to be really hard to know which little thumbnail is me. But at the same time, I understand, like, processing that, I understand the importance of that connection because people don't feel connected right now. And I think, actually, I think that's an exciting thing, especially as an artist, because I think it's funny with theater, right? When you're doing live theater or when you're a musician, and you're playing on stage, you can see the faces. You get the live interaction, whether it's them laughing and you're doing comedy, which is like the best, like, I don't know, trip or drive in the world.
Yeah, it's great.
Or it's people singing along with your music.
Yeah.
And you have that like community moment. And I think in some ways, maybe this is a good thing for the entertainment industry. Maybe it'll bring back that feeling of like, of the one, of that feeling of like, I can see the people, I think the interaction is really important. I think it's part of the reason why people Netflix and chill now, and they're just like, they're watching things later. But I think to actually build that event, like I think one of the greatest things that they did, this was a trend within the last couple of years prior to even the pandemic, the ratings were going down. People are not watching things in real time. So they started to make these live musicals and live events where you tune into NBC and they're going to do all of Hairspray and it's going to be live and they can make mistakes. And whoa, like, what a concept. But it became an experience where people might sit around the water cooler, as they used to say, like Seinfeld was like a water cooler sitcom. People would talk about it afterwards, after they watched it the night before, because you couldn't stream it later, and that, I think that aspect is definitely missing. And I think it is important. I think it's something to think about. And I'm sorry, I'm going like on a really long tangent. No, I think even in terms of my comedy partner and I, we do an Instagram live every single week. Every single week we get on as our characters. And it is so exciting when we have people who actually watch us and comment, not just watch, but comment. And then we get to interact with them and it becomes part of the sketch. And I don't know, it's great. It really is great.
Speaking of which, we've had some wonderful kind and comments from Courtney, who's been lovely, life affirming, and Melanie Ripley, who wanted to tell Leah how amazing she is.
Oh, that's my cousin Melanie.
Aww.
Hey, cousin Melanie. Love her.
And from Cindy Henry, who is a new fantastic friend here in Charlotte of Amy's and mine. And I encourage you all to continue to comment. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd like us to say, I mean, not like repeat after me, but anything you'd like us to comment on, feel free, and I'll keep trying to keep my eyes on it. So thank you for being so kind and commenting. Because it is a lot easier when people contribute something to the conversation, not just to this show, but just when you're a performer, when you're putting yourself out there and then there's no actual response other than a few likes. It's really hard to know how your content is landing, right? And what is it that, how can I make this show exactly hit all the sweet spots of the right audience and all that kind of thing. It's an ongoing conversation. All art is really a conversation.
Always. It's communicating something, whether it's being communicated through sound or laughter or dance or a picture or whatever it is. It's communicating because it's about people. And that's what community building is, right? It's sort of, when I always think of myself as to this, community building, I always consider myself like kind of a person collector. I collect people. I've been collecting people my whole life. It's, there was this really great study there was Harvard study that lasted about 70 years. So the people participating in the study in terms of the group being studied, it was 70 years before the last individual passed away. And there were many of those that were conducting the study that passed on, and the baton had to be passed and passed and passed. So once they started it, I think it ended in the, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. So it had been going on, you know, for a long time. Certainly when it started, Harvard was all men. And obviously, you know, they were all white men, and they were all probably wealthy. So you take that with a grain of salt, because you're not getting a big variety of people. However, what they were doing is studying their happiness. And they followed these men for 70 years. And they tried to determine who was the happiest and why. And it was really interesting. So I was listening to it on NPR. And they sort of ranked the elements in their lives that produced the happiness, the most happiness. And they found that money and power was actually way down on the list. Money and power was not the key to happiness. At the very, very, very top across the board. Oh, actually, there were two things. One was people who had overcome adversity, who had had a really difficult time in their lives and had come out the other side. Because they were able to recognize that they have the strength to weather whatever life throws, because life's going to throw out, you know, God knows what's going to happen. We have had a pandemic this year, the madness that has happened. You know, life will give you, all of a sudden you'll be walking along, and all of a sudden, boom, you get punched in the face, and you're like, okay, well, I have to deal with that now. And when you have knowledge that you can handle that, you have a little bit more ease and a little happiness. Knowing that you have the strength to weather these storms, and also less anxiety that another storm's going to come, because who knows what's going to happen. But at the very, 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 very top was relationships. Those people that had solid, loving relationships in their lives, whether it was friends or family. And I think that is so important. So when you are able to collect those people and create your community in whatever way that is that works for you, it can help with everything, whether it's an event, whether it's anything that you're doing in your life, whether if you're having a hard time, you have your community, you're doing a show. Chances are the people that you have amassed throughout however many years will show and support you, and you're going to come and support them too. So it's just, that's, I think for me, the most important thing is people. What else we have, really, you know? So anyway.
Good.
That is
Thank you for that.
We have one more question. And I lost it. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Here we go. The question is, what type of community have you built or were led to build, and why? Oh, that's a good question. Let's start with you, Taylor.
Wait, what was it one more time?
What type of community have you built or were led to build, and why?
Okay. I mean, you know, for me, I don't know, that's a pretty, I think, direct answer. Like, as far as my art goes, I do a lot of it in solitude. Like, you know, I don't usually write songs with people. Like, you know, I like to do it by myself and kind of like tinker and do things. But like, the things that, you know, I've been like led to do, like, for example, my buddy, he's a promoter at the hotel cafe, and he was like looking to put on like a country program, and he's like, well, you kind of play country music, I mean, you play Americana music, but you must know some people. And so, like, you know, a few different times at that venue I put together bills, you know, just based off of, like, you know, other country artists that, you know, I've met either like playing shows or going to shows, and, you know, maintaining relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the nice thing I can say about this exercise is, like, you know, it's led to, like, you know, some very deep lasting friendships that, you know, have led to things I didn't expect. Like, one fellow that I've played with and whom I've also had on my stream, he's an artist named Young Patches, and he played here for a little while. He moved to Nashville, and he actually put me up a couple of weeks to, you know, check out what was going down over there, and, like, you know, had me up because he was playing on Broadway. And so, like, you know, I would say that, you know, just my love of, you know, Americana music, but just also like great genuine people
Mm.
has allowed me to connect all of these different artists through this type of music and build this moment, like because the winding stream I think lasts a little over 3 hours, and we usually have 8 artists, but 3 hours a month where people can like just look forward to having like a nice Sunday of listening to like a lot of great music, and the artists feeling like they're part of something, and like feeling that human connection with both the artists that we book, loving their music, and getting to interact with them as people, but also having the live interactive aspect of like we're doing here with the comments. This is like the nearest thing that we have to like a live audience now, but those two things make it really humanistic and tangible. And so when people feel that from something that you help build, like it's something that they'll want to be a part of, because they want to continue having that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Christin, what are your thoughts?
So it's what types of communities have you built, and then what was the last part of that?
What type of community have you built or were led to build, and why?
Oh, and why? Okay. All right. So three types actually. I just, it's one of my things. I like bringing people together. Betsy knows this. I've been doing it since the dawn of my life.
I think we're all very similar in that.
Yeah.
I like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so one of the things for sure is artist, and with film and theater, you cannot, as we said before, do that alone. I mean, you can, but it's going to be okay. It'll probably just be like okay, but it's more fun with other people. Let's be honest, it is way more fun with other people. But one of my favorite communities that I built was this was back in 2015. And Betsy was actually a part of this. And I built, it was before it was trendy, by the way. This was not a thing yet. And I did an all woman cast and crew web series. That was very important to me. It was before Me Too. And it was literally sketches that dealt with women's issues. Every single episode was like different. It was basically a short, like creating like 7 shorts. Nice. One of my favorite things that I did with this was I actually sat with every single woman who was gonna be a part of it on the cast and crew and asked them, what do you want to do? Because that was important to me, because it wasn't just about like me creating this and what I'm gonna get out of it, but I wanted every woman to have an opportunity to shine in what they felt called to do. I just felt that was really, really important. So it was great. I literally had conversations. I had meals, I had coffee, and I got to talk to every single lady. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful thing when you can recognize the gift in someone else and give them the opportunity. It is the best feeling. And it is so cool too, to sit back and just see it all like working together, like all the pieces. I think that's the producer hat in me that really enjoys that. But it's beautiful, and to see your friends' dreams come true, like not just your dreams come true, but your friends, like that is the best feeling and high in the world. It's one of the best, so that's one of the types of communities that I built. Also women, obviously, I love creating women's groups. I have a group of friends back home. They're all very, very close friends to me. Some of them did know each other from church, and then some of them didn't. Some of them were from different walks in my life, but they all happen to live in the same area now. And it was about probably 2 years ago that I said, all right, I'm coming home. We're all going to get together. And at first there was some belly aching. There was some like, nah, she's older than me. She's got kids. I don't know. But it became like the best thing. Like it just became so great to have these ladies gatherings. And like when I would come home now, it's like, okay, well, we're going to do that when you come back. And I'm like, yeah, we are. And even when I'm not there, you should still do it. Because I think that's a great thing. And then obviously the last one would be faith communities. I love building communities of prayer, just for people to be able to get together. We need that support. It was one of it was one of the ways that I survived my first 3 or 4 years in LA. I had 2 ladies in particular, and we were committed, and we would meet. I think it was every other week. It wasn't every week, but every other week. And literally it would be, what are your needs? What are you going through right now? And then we would pray with one another. And I mean, whether that's an aspect of that or not, I think that's important. And having that connection with those girls, like that's how I survived the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Nice.
No, yeah.
Nice.
Betsy?
Yes, and yeah, Christin created some Avengers, which now lives on as an online
Awesome.
group. It's not exactly what it was to start out with, but yeah, it's sort of the communities that I have that I've been building and led to build. I mean, besides this like booking group, which is really fun. I mean, it's been really fun introducing you all to each other and seeing new friendships and collaborations form out of that. So artist community, yeah, but I'm more of like a member. I'm not like a leader in that. Most of the communities that I've built have either centered around reading and either like read aloud night with, you know, people sitting around with food and reading passages of either things they wrote or just things that they love to each other.
Nice.
Or,
Nice.
you know, book clubs and book groups. And sometimes those are like, you know, faith-based, you know, we're reading a book together that has a certain topic. Or sometimes, you know, fiction or nonfiction. So, and that's really most of my community right now. It's either something faith-based or something based on something that I'm reading. Those are my Zoom groups, and they've been great. They've been a huge relief. And sometimes, you know, we just go wildly off topic, and then just, you know, we're just talking to each other. It's a relief, but it's really a relief to be able to discuss other bigger ideas that aren't just about the crap that we're going through right now. Yeah. So those are and then, you know, a couple of my friends in LA have had like movie night stuff. And I mean, those are really great when we could do those. I like the Netflix party movie nights. My computer's being fixed right now, so I haven't shown up on those, but those have been a nice way to, you know, just get together, watch a stupid movie and then chat about it, make stupid jokes on the side. I mean, it's not the same as getting together for movie night, but I'll take it, you know, I'll take it.
Sure. Absolutely. I think it's interesting. I've started a couple, but you know, I know that you know, I think there are some like, you know, people like me who I'm Jewish, but I'm not observant and I'm not religious at all. But I happen to be, you know, that's what happens when your name is Leah Finkelstein. You get roped into some Jewish stuff. So, I did get a job when I first moved here at the synagogue down the street. And it's the Reform Synagogue with the head rabbi is a woman who's around my age, which is really interesting. She's just super progressive and super cool. And I was like, okay, because it's hard. I struggle with it because it's not my jam. I from a cultural and tradition standpoint and the holidays that we celebrate, love it, love the food. Yeah, but doesn't, you know, but it didn't matter. It's still, you know, because I think because it's such a particularly progressive synagogue, I think a lot of people that go there struggle with their own, you know, how they feel about organized religion in general. But still, even if you struggle with that, I now know these people. It's still a group of people. And if I'm playing a gig or if I'm doing something, they're there. You know, so it's interesting, you know, for anyone watching who is not sort of connected to a faith or spirituality, or that's not really their thing. It is there are alternatives to that. That it doesn't have to be necessarily a religiously centered community. And it's been sort of an interesting journey for me to kind of straddle that. But what I have built, it's funny, sometimes you don't realize that you're building a community when you build a community. You know what I mean? So I remember it's years ago, my husband and I were hanging out. I tried to remind him to go see his doctor, because that's what wives do. You have to make an appointment with your doctor. You have to get a checkup. And he said, "Did you call Dr. Lee?" And then I started singing Dr. Lee, Dr. Lee, oh, Dr. Lee. And he's like, I don't know what you're singing. I'm like, how do you not know that song? Which is an old 60s song. Now we go down a YouTube rabbit hole and we're looking at these old 1960s girl groups, and they were all sort of campy and ridiculous. And I was like, I should start a spoof of this and do a comedy group. Calling my friend Karen, called my friend Heather, like, do you want to put on crazy wigs and dresses and sing song parodies, and like sing like really dirty songs as like a spoof of late 60s girl groups? And they were like, yes, we do. So we, for 5 years, performed in all the comedy clubs in LA. We did a couple of tours. We were on the Gong Show. We were on America's Got Talent. It took us on this whole thing, but which we did not expect. But what happened is that we built this community around our group, the Boubet Sisters. And we didn't expect it to be this community that we met, this comedy club community. People that I know, look at your performing partner, Kara. We, performed at Flappers together. So it became this community of comedians, which I tell you what, it's a real funny group of people to have a community with. It's very enjoyable. So, that was an interesting one. And then just this year, this is sometimes a thing that can happen when you're faced with such a thing like a pandemic. We haven't really been able to physically go and see our friends, go to dinner, or go to someone's home for dinner. I live in a they're like townhouses that go around in a bit of a circle, and we have a courtyard that is open in the middle. And I'm really close with a couple of my neighbors, but because of the pandemic, we have created this little community of 5 women. We're all neighbors, and we go into the courtyard with our cocktails every weekend, and we're able to stand about 10 feet apart, totally safe. And if we have to go to the bathroom, we just go into our own homes and use the bathroom. And I didn't know a few of them as that well at the beginning of this. And this group of 5 of us have become so close because we were forced to be in this bubble and this is really our only physical social interaction that we have. And we were talking about it just this weekend. This is all something that we're gonna have that will carry with us for the rest of our lives. Yeah. We're always, no matter where we move, whatever happens, we will always stay in touch in this group of 5 women that became so close during the pandemic. So these are things that sometimes, whether or not you mean to or not, sometimes it just happens, and boop, there's a community, So wonderful. Yeah, I'm very, very thankful that I have that, So and they're all we're an interesting crew. So
did you
yeah.
Leah, did you know the ladies prior? Because like it's so funny. Neighborhood. I wonder how many other people can say that they got to know their neighbors through this, because I got to know my neighbors through this, and I didn't really I kind of knew them, but I didn't really know them, and that has been such a gift.
It's so well. I will say that another piece to this, I'm the building manager. So okay. So it helps just get a little break on the right. I mean, it's a small building. So it doesn't require a whole lot. I'm just sort of kind of like a human mailbox when it comes to rent. And if someone needs to get something fixed, I just text our maintenance, Mm-hmm. So it's pretty laid back. But so I know everyone, but a few of them we were not as close. But what I tried to do, it all kind of started at the beginning of this, where one of my friends, there was a woman that I've chatted with, but we didn't really get in there and get close. Most of my friends, we don't have kids for being entertainment or whatever it is. But she has a son who is a professional dancer who is bonkers. He's so good. His name is Josh Price. If you ever want to look him up, he's really pretty amazing, and he's his career is really kind of bonkers. Anyway, he was graduated from high school this past May, right? And she just felt so bad because here he's graduating from high school, and it's like, okay, well, that's online, and you're like, yay, we graduated, So it's such a bummer. So I said, well, why don't we do something? Why don't we surprise him? So we decorated the whole courtyard with his graduation colors. And I made like a little makeshift diploma because you should be able to be handed something.
Yeah.
And then we made these little streamers and where he would go and receive his diploma. This was all, he had no idea. And I told everybody in the building who got super into it. And I was like, all right, it's 6 o'clock on the dot, you know, we're going to surprise Josh. So he had no idea. And I got a stereo out there and played Pomp and Circumstance. And he opened the door in his cap and gown because his mom said, try your cap and gown. I want to see what it looks like anyway. Aww. So he was like, all right. So he walked out to the courtyard in his cap and gown and everyone was like, whoa. And he went running around and did pot. He was so surprised, so shocked. And he was just like, and you know, we had him give a little speech. And awesome. It was such a talk about a community moment of, you know, we just happen to all live in this building. And, you know, you see people passing by in the courtyard, but, you know, here's this kid graduating from high school in the middle of a pandemic and doesn't even get to really have a graduation. And so to be able to do that brought, I think, our building community together in general. But then Ruth, his mother, and I became way closer friends to that. And then my next door neighbor, Sarah, who has 2 little ones of her own, we'd known each other, but not really, you know, anyway. From there, it became, and then Roseanne, who you know, Betsy.
Yes, I was going to ask about Roseanne, if she's one of those 5 women.
She was 100% is.
Yeah.
So
yes.
The 5 of us, I know she and I were already really close, and same thing with Dolly, but now it's this group of 5 that really, really have bonded so much over this. So, you know,
that's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful story to sort of wrap up on because we've been on for about an hour, y'all, already.
We haven't.
We can probably do this for a couple more hours. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful that each one of you is part of my community, and I hope that you'll come back and be guests again soon. Next week we'll have on Rachel Tenpenny, who is a certified grief specialist coming to us from Virginia. Amy Bynum from right here in Charlotte, my good friend and former boss and once and future roommate, as well as, now I forgot the 3rd person because of course when I'm on the spot.
It's COVID brain, don't worry about it.
But we're gonna have a fun show next week and I don't know what we'll be talking about. Oh, Courtney, I believe Courtney Matz will be back on with us next week. So nice. We'll look forward to having you all on again in the new year. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week.
Thanks so much, Betsy, for having us. And stay safe, you guys. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep in touch. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas.
All of that.
Christmas.
Stay in touch.
You too.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.